When we put our minds to it, we can bring life back to places that lost it. We can bring back the magic. And in an age of declining wilderness, being able to do that is truly a superpower. Which is why today's story feels like the start of something big. And in this video, we want to show you what 5 months of hard work and progress looks like. Okay, so today we're finally gonna start putting some structures in the water. Here they are. They've been coated, they have dried, and they're now ready to go into the sea. So we're gonna load them onto our boat, we're gonna drive that boat to Puramas, and we're gonna do the first deployment of this project, which is just such an exciting milestone to reach because a lot of work has been put in to be able to get to this moment. But before we get into that, I want to spend a few minutes showing you the state of the reef we are restoring and the animals that live here. And to do so quickly, I came up with a funny concept. So if you're willing, try to hold your breath with me throughout this whole tour of the project. So now, take a big deep breath and let's go see what we can find. Okay, let's get started. Our project area is still a beautiful place with a lot of healthy coral reef in the shallow parts, where it forms this wonderful maze-like gardens that are really fun to explore. However, when you spend a bit of time here, you start seeing the problem. We humans leave ugly scars behind, and here there is almost no natural regeneration. And where we have no reef, we have no marine life. This place is a mini desert, and it is exactly what we are trying to fix. But when you swim a bit deeper, you see the best that this place has to offer. There is this mighty pinnacle, this tower of life that has slowly built up over hundreds, if not thousands of years. It's generations upon generations of coral, and it's teeming with fish. Its presence is like an old tree, looming large over us, judging us to see if we've finally turned the page and are ready to fix the things that we broke.
Though there are of course those damaged areas, it's just such a special place to dive, especially that pinnacle at the end. I mean, how incredible, like what an explosion of life. But yeah, I think to see the wildlife now, we're gonna need to spend a bit more time underwater. So let's change to scuba kit and go check out what animals are living here.
This place is of course full of fish. There are pufferfish, parrotfish, trumpetfish, flatfish, and even the famous clownfish hiding in its anemone. There are also quite a few turtles foraging for algae and sponges. There are plenty of moray eels. And when I saw this in the distance, I thought it was a moray eel out hunting. But when I got close, it turned out to be a beaked sea snake. This is a pretty cool find, so I was fully focused on filming it. But as it swam past me, I remembered that a single bite from this snake has enough venom to kill 5 grown humans, which made me a bit jumpy, but it went on its way. We also saw a few mantis shrimp, which arguably has the best vision on Earth, and we also managed to find what is probably my favorite animal to see underwater, the intelligent master of camouflage, the octopus. Then amongst the reef, we found Yudi's favorite animal, the nudibranch. You see, experienced divers collect sightings of these a bit like Pokemons, as each one is just a little bit different. And then, one of the days we were diving here, we saw something at the surface and managed to dive down really deep quite fast to catch a distant glimpse of a very weird animal, the mola mola. What a cool and unique animal to have in our project area, and it's coming here to get cleaned by the fish that live on this reef.
Always blows my mind like how busy and diverse it is down there. And I mean, these are the most biodiverse ecosystems on Earth after all. But yeah, there is work to be done. We have our permit, so time to jump into action.
By the time we got the permit, we had a bit over 30 structures ready to go. So then it was time for them to go into the boats to be deployed by the team, which for this first deployment will be Yudi and Chansa, myself, Yulia, and Captain Pakadek. And as a reminder, the reason we are able to hire this team, buy this boat and all the necessary equipment is because of our Mossy Earth members that join us with a monthly contribution to fund the various rewilding projects that we implement. And if you want to be a part of that, you can do so at mossy.earth. Now it's time for action. We decided to start in this shallow corner of Rubble Area 1, next to this small pinnacle, which has a coral that is home to a family of domino fish, who you might remember from our trial site in the last video.
So we're right at the spot here. This is the little island with some coral, and the rubble area is now around it and all the way down that way. So this is exactly where we need to be.
With Pakadek keeping the boat in place, Chansa passing me the structures, and Yuri putting them down at the bottom, we quickly managed to get all of them in the right location. Then, down there, it was a matter of rearranging them and fixing them in place before taking a break for a quick lunch.
It went pretty good. To put that much of structure in one dive, it's quite a success. Yeah? Just need to wait and see how we collect the fragments and we attach them. I think that will be more time consuming.
And especially if we have the current we had now at the end.
Oh yeah, that current is crazy. Quite fast as well.
Sometimes it was like the current decided what I was filming. A bit back and forth in this direction.
The current was indeed an ever-present challenge, both for the work and of course for the filming, because to stay in the same place to get this shot, for instance, Julia had to be kicking like crazy. However, these currents are one of the factors that allows the corals here to grow super fast, but more on that in a bit when we look at the results. Now it's time to go collect the fragments.
Do we mostly want to put reef builders or anything goes?
Prefer we can put something that already exists in the area, but don't put for one species too much. It just makes it a little bit with almost same composition.
Almost the same composition. Yeah, I mean, trying to imitate what's the other area nearby,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Collecting the fragments from the nearby reef was quite fun. We essentially went around swimming with this big red box, and we were looking for loose fragments of healthy coral found in amongst the healthy reef, and we would pick them up and bring them with us. You see, these healthy reefs have plenty of these broken fragments that we can use, and of course, as a diver, you shouldn't touch anything, but in our case, we were picking them up to attach them to our structures. Then, the attaching process involved using plastic zip ties to secure the coral to the metal structures. And before you write a comment, we will talk more about this in a bit. And after some hours of work, we had made a lot of progress.
Okay, so that was our first day of deployment. I think we got a lot done in the end. I mean, how many structures do you think we managed to cover?
About 10.
Maybe 10? Yeah, I mean, but
15, okay.
But it started to look really, really good. I mean,
Yeah.
it started really to look like something where they can start growing. Once you gotta keep chipping away at it, and then suddenly you look at the whole picture, and it's really, really nice.
Yeah, that's true. Like, if it's all covered, then it will look very different.
Yeah, completely. But yeah, to do a whole rubble area, it's a lot of work. I really realize now. Like, this is a big project already, to do this areas here.
Exactly.
Over the next few days, we completed the remaining structures, and right away we could see the fish using the space, swimming in amongst the new three-dimensional habitats that we created. And there were all kinds of species, but above all, small fish that benefit from these tight spaces, such as this family of yellow-tailed blue damselfish that were exploring one of the newly added structures. And later, we even saw the adult domino damselfish that live on the adjacent coral pinnacle happily rubbing up against the structures, which we believe is them preparing the area to lay their eggs. But all of this happened in April, and we've made a whole lot of progress since then. But before we look at the 2,000 structures that we've put in, and crucially the new life that has moved in, Yuri wants to quickly say something about the boat.
So on the last video we asked you to vote on the name for the boat, and we are very happy when you choose Domino for the name, because of the domino fish that the first fish to move into our restoration site. So next month when me and Chansa is going for a holiday, we are going to ask someone to repaint the boat and maybe add some illustration, which will be pretty cool.
So I'm sorry, Seamoss, and of course the ever-present Boaty McBoatface, but Domino won with an overwhelming majority. But we've also had your feedback on another much more important point, which is the tying methods that we use to attach the coral. So I would like to shine some light on that. We initially chose to use plastic zip ties because plastic is one of the best materials imaginable for this task. In the scientific literature, the survival rates far exceed the other materials tested, so plastic is what most projects use, and I think it's reasonable. You can think of it as pretty much the most useful piece of plastic in the sea. We cut the ends off and recycle them, and the coral eventually covers the zip ties themselves, leaving very little of it to disperse. However, from the beginning, we did want to find an alternative method that, if possible, would be more biodegradable. So we set up an attachment trial comparing plastic, hemp, and cotton thread to see how these materials worked in our project area. And right now, it does indeed seem that they are inferior, but we have to wait for the trial to finish to have conclusive results. But in addition to that, we had somewhat of a miracle happen. We had a productive conversation on the internet. I know, right? It's crazy. You see, in September, we released our first video about this project, and alongside it, we also released a video on our Mossy Earth Field Notes channel, and on both of them, we got a ton of useful suggestions. So many of you wonderful people out there came up with great ideas which we immediately took action on. One really obvious one we had completely missed was to use metal zip ties, which are a bit tricky for coral attaching, but perfect to bind the structures together. That was an immediate 25% reduction right there. It's done. UD has implemented this. And after UD made another Field Notes video on this exact topic, we got a whopping 250 comments with ideas. So now we will be testing some additional materials like metal wire and potentially some biodegradable plastics as well. I just want to pause here to say that this is well beyond what we were expecting when we created the Mossy Earth Field Notes channel. It's so cool to have this direct dialogue with our members and with our viewers. And if you haven't heard of this channel yet, this is where we post these raw, on-the-ground updates pretty much on a weekly basis. I think it's super cool, and I take the time to sit down and watch them as well. So be sure to subscribe to that if you're interested, and if you're not subscribed to the main Mossy Earth channel, that always helps as well. Okay, so since April, everything has kicked into gear. The team spent May getting things ready on the production side. Then in June, they hired Hade and Reza to help out on the diving and deploying side of things. And since then, they've been going out non-stop and have managed an average of 120 structures each week, which is amazing. So that now in October, they have reached 2,000 structures down there and have completed Rubble Area 1, which looks completely different. Now, the work doesn't stop right after deployment. The team needs to scrub the structures free of algae for about 6 months after they go in, until the coralline algae finally takes over. They are this purple stuff that you can see here, and they produce calcium carbonate, which is the perfect surface for coral to attach and to grow on. So once the coralline algae has taken over, we don't need to worry about other algae competing with our bits of coral, and the scrubbing can stop. But of course, some of them do die, and in our case, it's only around 2%, but we still need to go in and replace the dead fragments with fresh ones. And just like that, after a few months, this whole area has been transformed completely, and the fish have noticed. They are moving in large numbers. There are hundreds of fish from dozens of different species swimming in between the structures, with some of them even helping us keep them nice and clean. And then, in the areas with the oldest corals, something special has happened. These were some of the first corals we put in during the deployment we showed you earlier in this video. You can see the little pinnacle in the back here. It's the same one. And look at how they have grown. It is incredible to see, and some of them have become big enough to house not one fish, but the whole family of them. Here we have a family of Cloudidactylus moving into this Acropora bush. And they are behaving exactly as they do in the beautiful Acropora in the nearby reef. The fish don't care if it's artificial. For them, it's a new bit of habitat that works wonderfully. I spent a really long time mesmerized looking at these progress videos from UD and Chansa, and the more you look, the more interesting things you find. It's not just the wonderful fish that pass by or that have moved in, but also the coral itself. This is an Echinopora coral that we have planted, and here, right next to it, there is a new Echinopora that we did not put there. This means that in all likelihood it spawned from the one nearby, which is a great sign of health and that our structures are really good for attaching. I also recognized this fragment of slow-growing brain coral that we put there, and I saw that while of course it has indeed grown slowly, it is already attached, which is really great for the diversity of the reef. And then there was this coral here that I was holding during our silly hard hat thumbnail photo shoot. It is actually a threatened species of blue coral, vulnerable to extinction, and here it is fully attached and growing. It is just incredible to see this, and this is just the first 2,000 structures in the first 5 months after deployment, and one can only imagine how this will look like in a few years. And all of this is of course only made possible thanks to our Mossy Earth members, all 14,000 amazing people out there that contribute to our projects every month. The average contribution is around £12 or $16, but there are many of us, and when we put this whole community together, we can do amazing things like this. So if you would like to support this project, then please consider joining us at mossy.earth. And if you are a member and you would like to supercharge this project, then you can do so by going to the Fund Extra part in your account and support the deployment of one or more structures. And for all the purchases between now and Christmas, we will take one photo when they are eventually deployed at the end of the year, so you can see the corals that will grow on it. I think it's a pretty fun way to see your impact. Once again, thank you so much for the support. I really can't stress this enough. Nothing would be possible without you. Until next time. Cheers!